right, Happy New Year. I am back in 2025 here with a new Path of Exile 2 video. It is essentially the only game I am playing right now. I keep telling myself I'm going to stop, and then I'm like, well, maybe I can farm for this or this. My plan is only to stop until they do some new patch that I can try out, not like stop for good. But I find myself continually playing, and today I just thought I would talk about my experience with a monk now that I've taken it to essentially the same endgame level as my ranger. Once again, I infamously made a lot of commentary on the endgame despite barely playing it, though a lot of that is still, you know, the criticism is still kind of maintained in terms of how punishing it is in sort of what feels like unfair ways. The experience in the endgame is a lot different with the monk than the ranger in the sense that you can't quite play it safe as much on a melee character. My ranger is, you know, probably better for farming most of the time because you just sort of shoot lightning arrows at things that are barely on the screen or completely off the screen, keeping yourself relatively more safe. The monk, meanwhile, needs to get in on the action. There are a handful of like kind of really solid monk builds right now. Not a ton because, you know, build diversity is not exactly a thing, and there is a ton of stuff that is not even in the game yet. So it's usually kind of like lightning-based stuff, frost-based stuff, or a combination of both. This is Invoker Frost Lightning, where your main skill is Ice Strike, and it lets you kind of zip around and teleport, similar to, you know, if you play Diablo 4's Monk, this plays pretty similarly, right down to giant bells you throw down on the grounds. I'm not going to do like a full detailed build here. Like it's, you know, I've assembled it from a bunch of different YouTubers. Darth Microtransaction is sort of the main one I'm using here with a few tweaks. The idea here is like you essentially use Ice Strike as your main skill while also empowering your staff with lightning powers for bonus damage. You can use, what is it, Flicker Strike to kind of teleport around, and then for elites or bosses you kind of slam this giant bell down on them and hit it, and it like amplifies your damage. I find the monk a lot more fun than the ranger. It really makes you kind of get in on the action as opposed to just playing it like really, really safe, shooting things off the corner of the screen. I will say it's probably better for some of the in-map events that I'm still not terribly good at prolonging. As you'll see, I do the best I can in these, but like I don't quite understand how like I stop or like how they start failing or like the timer runs out. I still don't fully understand how those work, but I know they swarm you with a whole bunch of enemies that you have to kill really, really quickly. And given that they spawn directly on top of you, that is often not great for my ranger, but better for my monk, who can kind of explode a lot of people close to him really quickly and zip around and do it pretty fast. There are some issues lingering with the monk in terms of how issues are lingering for most melee classes. Defenses right now are in a strange place. Things really started to come together when I started leaning into Energy Shield on Monk with something like Grim Harvest, which allows you to double your Energy Shield. I know people can get up to crazy stats, but this allows me to be at like 1500 health, but like 3500 recharging Energy Shield, and then you can kind of refill it relatively quickly with Grim Harvest and other things. So that has kept me alive, you know, more than I used to be. Most of the time, you kind of have to make a decision in a split second when it comes to the monk and like taking on various things like elites especially. You have to decide to either, I'm just going to throw myself in there, drop a bell, hope I blow him up instantly, and then hope there's not some sort of after-death effect I can't get away from. If you wait on this and you sort of lose momentum and you lose your stacks of things, you can play it a little safer, but that comes with its own risks, where if you're it's not really easy to kind of slow walk a monk in terms of killing a boss if you sort of let or an elite if you sort of let it spool up. There's risks both ways. So like if you're just running around trying to dodge like lightning bolts and things, the worst thing that this game still has are the volatile plants that shoot these like really slow chaos orbs at you, which is fine. You can dodge them, or if you run through them they will blow up, you know, behind you if you're running fast. But they hide behind trees, they hide behind enemies, and they spawn so fast that by the time you're done dodging the ones that exist, the plants respawn and they're already shooting new ones at you. So I found that really, really annoying to deal with as monk, because you can often only just get a couple of hits in before you have to dodge these freaking things again, and they stack. So it's one of the many things that can sort of one-shot you. So there are some certain abilities like that that are kind of tough to take on with monks. You know, I've gotten a little more cautious about diving in and like not paying enough attention to what is going to do an after death effect to blow you up. Those easily are the ways I still die the most often. One problem that continues to be present that I find with these endgame maps, like these are tier 14, tier 15, you're going to see me instantly die in one of them where I guess I made the wrong call to dive on a double elite that I couldn't blow up fast enough, and I instantly died. I don't know how. I couldn't read their modifiers fast enough, but they were ranged characters, and I didn't think it was good to leave them ranged, so I just dove in, and I died. Maybe if I can watch this on replay, I will know how I died, but that kind of thing can happen somewhat frequently. That was a rare level tier 15 map, which losing that in 5 seconds and losing XP from that is a bummer. So, you know, death is always your fault to some extent, but it's a real 100-0 situation with a lot of these builds. Like either you're just completely tanking and dodging everything, or you run into something that is instantly killing you, and most of the time you don't really even know what happened. In terms of bossing, I think the monk is certainly better at bossing. I'm not really like... I haven't figured out how to like blow bosses up quite as fast as everyone else, but I've beaten enough where you get these boss upgrades to make the bosses harder. So you might spawn a boss where, in addition to their other abilities, guess what? They're throwing volatile plant orbs at you, which is super annoying, as I've said. And I haven't, you know, really tried to redo the pinnacle boss stuff. Some stuff I'm just sort of holding off on until something gets patched here. I told myself I wasn't going to keep grinding these maps until they made dying a little less punishing with all of the stuff you lose, including the waystone, all the modifiers, XP, loot, modifiers that like it, you lose just everything on one death. And I think they're going to scale some of that back. On monk, I have tried to, you know, because I've had a lot of success on the monk. I'm like, okay, well, it's time to do my other round of trials for Ascendency. I don't think I've hated anything in a game as much as I hate the Ascendency trials in the late game here for a very long time. They're so frustrating. Like, you will be cruising along and like, oh, I'm overpowered for this. I'm destroying everything, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, oops, wrong step from this one boss and one modifier I didn't quite understand fully, and you're dead. And that was like anywhere from 20 minutes to like an hour of you trying to get through this trial. Like, if you die in a map, you die in a map. It's 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever. But here, you do these runs where, again, there's no room for error here at all, and you will just instantly die. So those, I'm done until something changes with those, because it is the most obnoxious thing I played in this game, and on both classes, I have not. Every time I try, I get so mad when I die for some random reason at the end, and I know other people have figured this out better than me, but it remains something frustrating. If you have any ideas for me on how to not die in those so consistently, I'm all yours, but they really upset me. I don't know. At this point, I don't think I'm going to start a third character. I say now, as you know, in 2 weeks you'd be like, hey, here's my witch build. I have really enjoyed these two characters. I do think my plan is to just wait for the next big patch, which is coming soon. I know a lot of things are going to get nerfed. There's some like crazy scaling interaction things where people are doing like 1,000,000 DPS or something, and meanwhile I'm happy with my like 26,000 DPS on Ice Strike. I will say that I'm playing a different game than some people in the sense that I'm doing all self-found. It's a little interesting to go over some of these YouTuber guides, because some of them are self-found, and then others are like, hey, type in these permutations and modifiers to the trading shop, and then pay 3 exalts for this, you know, perfect thing for your slot. I don't love it. I've said this before, but like, if people want to play that way, more power to them. I'm not saying like trading should be erased from the game, because it's kind of like a personal choice. But that's not fun to me, and it is frustrating to deal with a lot of the RNG of finding things and crafting and, you know, bricking items and whatever. But I think I'd still rather do that than mess around with item trading. And I feel like once you flip that switch, everything is changes entirely. I am tempted to do that for some waystones, because just generating high-level waystones can be very obnoxious. Like if I go in there with one of my rare tier 15s and whoops, I die instantly, and I haven't gotten any new waystones from it. That remains pretty frustrating. It's a real ebb and flow of whether I'm able to generate waystones or not. And like, yes, I have my Atlas tree all maxed out to do this, but I still do find myself running into problems with that. And it's really annoying when you have like a 300% increased waystone modifier and you're getting like 6, 7, 8 level drops that are truly pointless in every sense of the word. So when you really only want to be running the highest tiers to get anything actually done. At 85 on my monk and 89 on my ranger, leveling becomes almost impossible to a certain extent with the whole XP penalty if you die, unless you just play insanely cautious or play lower maps with like low risk, so you just crawl toward the other levels. I don't really see a huge reason where that doesn't really seem to be a priority in terms of like getting just a couple more skill points. It's more about gearing at that point. So I'm still really having a great time with this. Yes, the endgame has a lot of issues, and I think they're pretty widely known at this point. I think GGG is going to have to balance what is a challenge and what is just straight up annoying, in addition to nerfs of things that are insane and buffs for things that are just dramatically underperforming. But there's only so much they can do at this point, given how much stuff is being left out of early access. So it's going to be a process, and we'll see where it goes. But yeah, that's my latest update. We'll see if I circle back after the next patch or something. But Happy New Year. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.